Okay, so GPT, have you heard about this?
Heard about it. It's like, it's everywhere you look these days.
Yeah, it's like taking over the world, writing songs,
Drafting
holding
emails.
conversations, even.
And those conversations, they can get surprisingly deep.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky how it can do that. But anyway, we're going beyond all the hype you see everywhere today. People have been asking for the real deal on GPT, like what's it all about?
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive, going right to the source.
Totally. We found this awesome article from IBM, and it like just came out today.
Hot off the presses.
Right. And it's perfect timing, too, because this whole field moves so crazy fast. So let's break it down. Back to basics. What is GPT? Really? I mean, besides just the name.
Yeah, because it's way more than just a buzzword. Like, at its core, GPT, it stands for Generative Pre-Trained Transformer. And it's this type of artificial intelligence focused entirely on language.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I keep hearing about different GPTs, like GPT-3,
Yeah,
GPT-4. It's like a whole bunch of them, right?
it is.
Like, what's the deal with that?
So it's not just one thing, right? It's a whole family, a lineage of models. Each one is more powerful, more nuanced than the last.
Huh.
Imagine, like, software updates, but for AI.
So you've got this whole family, and they're all about language. But how does it actually work? Like, what's going on under the hood?
Right, right. So let's take that name apart a little bit, right?
Okay.
Generative, that means it can create new text. And then pre-trained, that part's important. Imagine feeding a massive amount of data, like text data, almost the entire internet, let's say, into an AI.
Whoa, that's a lot.
It's a lot of information. That's the pre-training. GPT devours it all. It learns the patterns, the grammar, even different writing styles.
So it's not just spitting out what it's read. It's like learning to create.
Exactly.
It's insane.
It is. Like, think about it this way. GPT could read a cookbook, right, and then generate a brand new recipe, complete with ingredients and instructions.
Wow. Okay, that's really impressive. But what about the transformer part?
Ah, yeah.
What is that?
That's where things get really, really interesting. Because, see, most AI, it processes language like sequentially, word by word, like how we do, right? But GPT, with this transformer architecture, it can analyze whole chunks of text all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
It's like having a massive, massive mental map connecting ideas and concepts super fast.
No wonder it can write like a human. It's thinking about language completely differently.
Totally, yeah. And that's a big part of what makes GPT so different from, like, the older language models that were around before.
Okay, I think I'm getting the bigger picture here. But there's one thing I don't quite get.
Yeah.
How does GPT get meaning from words, right? Like, how does it bridge that gap between language and actually understanding what it means?
You're right. That's a good question because it gets to, like, the core of how AI understands anything, really. See, GPT doesn't actually think with words like we do. It converts them into these things called tokens, which are basically like numerical representations of those words.
Token. So every word has a code.
Exactly, like a unique code. And it goes even further. Those tokens are then plotted in this, like, multi-dimensional space. It's called an embedding. Imagine each word having its own coordinates in this space, and they're arranged according to their meaning. So words with similar meanings, they're clustered together. Words with opposite meanings, they're far apart.
Whoa. So it's like a map. It sees words as points on a map.
Exactly. It's a totally different way of processing language, and it's how GPT can actually connect those ideas and generate text that is coherent, makes sense, and is relevant to the context.
Okay, my brain is like officially fried. So you've got these AI models thinking about language in this completely different way, and they're getting more powerful all the time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot to wrap your head around. And, you know, speaking of how fast things are moving, it's actually been kind of amazing to see how quickly GPT itself has developed, you know? The IBM article we've been looking at, it actually lays out a timeline of the different GPT versions.
Okay.
And it reads like a tech thriller, seriously.
Ooh, I like that. A tech thriller.
Yeah. Every new version pushes the boundaries even further.
So, like, take us back to the beginning. What could the first GPT even do?
Right. So GPT-1 back in 2018, I mean, it was impressive for its time, but looking back now,
Yeah.
it's almost cute, you know, compared to what we have now.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It could, like, generate some basic text, answer really simple questions.
Okay.
Imagine, like, a very, very eager intern,
Okay.
you know, enthusiastic, but a little clueless. That was GPT-1.
Got it. So that's GPT-1, our little intern. Then what?
Then comes GPT-2. Right. This is 2019.
Mm-hmm.
This one was a huge step up, way better at understanding context, making the text flow, making it sound more human. Like, our intern had suddenly aced their training program.
But didn't GPT-2 freak some people out?
Oh,
I feel like I remember that.
it was getting a little too good,
Yeah.
People were worried about what could be done with it. Like, could you imagine the spam?
Yeah.
Fake news, but like hyper realistic.
Right.
It really got people thinking about the ethics. Like, whoa, this technology is powerful, maybe too powerful.
Like, yeah, that's a lot of responsibility all of a sudden.
Exactly. And then 2020, GPT-3 bursts onto the scene.
And that's the one everyone was talking about, right?
Oh, yeah. That's when it went mainstream.
Like writing poetry, writing code.
Yeah, it could do it all.
Yeah.
It was another massive leap forward in what it could actually do. It could handle much more complex instructions. You could ask it for different creative formats. It could even translate languages really, really well.
It's like it went from star student to like tech celebrity overnight.
Basically, yeah. But of course, all that power, it doesn't come for free.
What do you mean?
Literally the cost. To train GPT-3, to even run it, it took a huge amount of computing power, and that means energy. Lots of it.
Right, the energy consumption. I remember that was a big deal.
Huge. GPT-3's energy footprint, it became a serious concern. It was this big reality check, like, hey, progress is great, but we've got to balance that with sustainability.
Yeah,
It really kicked off a lot of important conversations about how we develop AI responsibly, thinking about the environmental impact of all this.
that's a good point. So what happened next?
Well, you can tell OpenAI was listening because when GPT-4 came out in 2023, they weren't just focused on making it even more powerful.
Oh, really? What else were they focused on?
They actually made a big deal about efficiency and making it easier for more people to use.
Oh, interesting. So it wasn't just about like raw power this time.
No, but I mean, don't get me wrong. It was still a huge leap forward, capability-wise.
Yeah.
It could handle even more subtle instructions, create different kinds of creative content, and it was way better at understanding, like, really complex questions.
So still a genius, just a more like well-rounded genius.
Yeah, exactly. But the really amazing part, it actually used less energy than GPT-3.
What?
Yeah, they found all these ways to optimize the model, make it more efficient, so it's more powerful and better for the environment.
That's awesome.
I know, right? Talk about a win-win.
Seriously. So what's next? What could they possibly do after that?
Well, just when we all thought it couldn't get any wilder, OpenAI dropped GPT-4o earlier this year.
GPT-4o. Okay, now you got my attention. GPT-4o. It sounds like, what, some kind of superhero name or something?
Right?
What could it do? Fly.
Well, it can do some pretty amazing things. For one, it can understand and generate text in a bunch of different languages.
No way, really?
Yeah.
So no more, like, struggling with Google Translate?
Pretty much.
Sign me up for that. That's awesome. But seriously, like, that's a big deal, right?
It's huge. I mean, imagine, like, no more language barriers. You could have real-time communication, collaboration across cultures. It could change how we interact globally. I'm talking business, international relations, everything.
That's a whole different world, right? It's crazy. What else? There's got to be more.
Okay, get this. It can also understand images and audio.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like, you could show GPT-4 a picture, and it could write you a story about it. Or you play it a song, it could generate a dance routine.
Okay, now that is some next level stuff right there.
Yeah.
But that also sounds incredibly useful. So, like, what can people actually do with this right now? Like, in the real world, what's GPT-4o doing for us today?
Well, one of the big things is in, like, creative fields. So writers, artists, musicians, they're using it as this collaborative tool.
Well, just
Bouncing ideas off of it, getting over creative blocks. Some are even, like, co-creating entire works with it.
so it's not about replacing what they do. It's more like, what, enhancing it?
Yeah, exactly. Augmenting it. It's about, like, pushing the limits of what's possible by bringing human creativity and AI together.
Wow. I can see why people are so excited about that.
Yeah.
But what about for, like, everyday stuff? How's GPT-4o being used in, like, business or even just normal life?
Well, think about education, right? GPT-4o could create personalized lesson plans based on what each student needs. Or customer service, instant, accurate answers to even the most complicated questions. No more waiting on hold.
It's like this whole personalized everything future.
Exactly. And like I said, we're just scratching the surface. As people keep figuring out what GPT-4o can do, who knows what we'll find?
That's the craziest part, right? Feels like we've covered so much,
We have.
but still just the beginning.
Yeah, totally.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We started with, like, what is GPT?
Yeah.
And now we're talking about a future where AI is everywhere.
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
Totally. Any last thoughts before we wrap things up?
I think the thing to remember is that this technology, I mean, AI in general, it's changing so fast.
It's crazy.
What seemed impossible a few years ago is like normal now.
Right.
So pay attention, stay curious, because who knows what's next.
I love that. Well, that is it for this deep dive. Thanks to everyone for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And be sure to check out the show notes. We'll have a link to that IBM article, plus some other cool resources so you can learn even more about GPT. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking those questions, and we'll see you on the next video.